Did anyone else only realize how much their grandparents shaped their life after they were gone? I didn't realize my grandmother was preparing me for her goodbye. 24F was very close to my grandmother growing up. While most kids spent weekends with friends, I spent many of mine at her house. She lived in a small, cozy place filled with old wooden furniture, family photos, and the comforting smell of food that always seemed to be cooking in the kitchen. Her house felt different from everywhere else. It was quiet, warm, and somehow safe in a way that's hard to explain. My grandmother loved telling stories. Stories about when she was young and how different life was back then. Stories about my parents when they were kids and all the trouble they used to get into. Sometimes she told stories about mistakes she had made and the lessons she learned from them. At the time, I thought she was just reminiscing the way older people often do. But during the last year of her life, something slowly began to change. She started giving me small things, not expensive things or family heirlooms, just simple, everyday items that suddenly seemed very important to her. Her favorite cooking pot, an old scarf she wore every winter, a handwritten recipe book she had been adding to for decades. When she gave me the recipe book, she told me to keep it somewhere safe. I remember laughing and joking with her. "Grandma," I said, "you're acting like you're going somewhere." She just smiled in that quiet way she always did and replied, "One day everyone goes somewhere." At the time, I didn't think much about it. I just assumed she was being philosophical the way she sometimes was. A few months later, she got sick. It wasn't sudden or dramatic. It was the slow kind of illness that makes doctors speak gently and families start worrying in quiet conversations. When I visited her in the hospital, she held my hand and asked me about my life, my job, my friends, my plans for the future. Not once did she complain about how she felt. She didn't talk about pain or fear. She just listened. Before I left that day, she told me something simple that I still think about often. "Don't rush your life trying to impress people," she said softly. "Peace is more important than proving something." Those were the last words she said to me. After she passed away, my family and I went back to her house to sort through her belongings. It was harder than I expected. Every room held memories. While looking through the recipe book she had given me, a small folded note slipped out from between the pages. I opened it and read the message she had written. "Good food keeps families together. Learn to cook, and you'll always have a reason for people to come home." I cried harder reading that note than I did at the funeral. Because in that moment, I finally understood something I hadn't realized before. She wasn't just giving me objects during that last year. She was slowly leaving pieces of herself behind. Now, every time I cook one of her recipes, the kitchen fills with the same familiar smell that used to fill her house. And for a moment, it feels like she's still there.